Commander Raxon Thellar stood at the bridge of the Apex Hunter, his massive frame casting an imposing shadow across the holographic display of the third planet. His crystalline eyes narrowed as he studied the swirling blue and green orb below. Behind him, the soft hum of the Vrchak fleet's engines provided a rhythmic backdrop to the anticipation filling the command center. Another watery world, he rumbled, his voice carrying the gravelly undertones characteristic of his species. But this one shows promise. His scaled fingers danced across the control panel, bringing up detailed atmospheric readings. Lieutenant Cora Vex approached, her sleek combat suit gleaming under the ship's ambient lighting. Commander, the hunting teams report all preparation protocols are complete. The quantum phase camouflage systems have been calibrated for Earth's atmospheric conditions. Thellar nodded, satisfaction evident in the slight raising of his dorsal spines. The Vrchak hunting fleet had conquered 97 worlds, claiming the apex predators of each as trophies for their grand collection. Their technology was unmatched across known space neural disruptors that could disable creatures 20 times their size, plasma-forged blades that could slice through the toughest hide, and hunting suits that rendered them virtually invisible to any known form of detection. "Show me the preliminary scan results," Thellar commanded, watching as three-dimensional representations of Earth's largest predators materialized before him. These creatures seemed primitive. He waved a dismissive hand through the hologram of what their database identified as a lion. Nothing compared to the razor beasts of Centauri Prime or the mind flayers of the Orion Belt. The bridge crew worked efficiently around him, each member of his hand-picked team focused on their assigned tasks. Through the massive viewport, Earth's moon cast a pale glow across the fleet's polished hull. 5 ships, each housing the finest hunters the Vrchak Empire had produced over 3 generations. "Interesting," muttered Science Officer Mira Zen, her long fingers moving rapidly across her console. "The atmospheric composition is causing unusual readings in our sensor arrays. There appears to be significant electromagnetic interference from the planet's core." Thellar moved to her station, his heavy footfalls echoing across the bridge. "Will it affect our hunting equipment?" "Minimal impact," Commander Zen replied, though her secondary eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of uncertainty among their kind. "Though I recommend the hunting teams maintain regular neural link connectivity checks once planetside." Commander Thellar returned to his position, his massive frame settling into the command chair. The seat adjusted automatically to accommodate his impressive array of defense spines. "Prepare the dropships," he ordered, his voice carrying the weight of countless successful hunts. "We'll begin with simultaneous deployments across their major continental masses. I want specimens from every significant biome this world has to offer." As the crew bustled into action, Thellar allowed himself a moment of reflection. The Vrchak Empire had built its reputation on being the galaxy's supreme hunters. Their museum halls were filled with preserved specimens from 1,000 worlds, each testament to their dominance over every ecosystem they encountered. "This planet," he mused aloud, "will make an interesting addition to our collection." His primary heart beat faster at the prospect of new conquests, while his secondary heart maintained its steady rhythm. "Send the deployment orders." "The hunt begins at dawn." The drop ships pierced Earth's atmosphere like silent meteors, their advanced shielding dispersing any heat signature that might have betrayed their arrival. Lead hunter Nyra Krell watched the altitude readings tick down from within her personal deployment pod. Her scaled fingers tightened around the ceremonial hunting spear, a weapon that had tasted the blood of predators across 17 different worlds. "Team Apex." Status report, she commanded through the neural link, her voice steady despite the turbulence of re-entry. "Beta Squad, deployed to coordinates 23.4162 deg-N, 25.6628 deg-E. Sahara Desert region secured," came the first response. "Gamma Squad, touchdown at 3.4653 deg-S, 73.8472 deg-W. Amazon Basin perimeter established." "Delta Squad, landing at 27.1750 deg-N, 78.0422 deg-E. Indian subcontinent base operational." Nyra's pod touched down in the heart of what their databases identified as the Siberian wilderness. The door hissed open, releasing a blast of frigid air that her environmental suit immediately compensated for. She stepped out onto the frozen ground, her boots leaving no prints thanks to the gravity displacement field. "Fascinating," muttered Drak Vor, her second in command, as he emerged from his own pod. The atmospheric density here is unlike anything in our previous hunting grounds. He raised his sensor array, scanning the surrounding forest. Multiple life forms detected within a 2-kilometer radius. Nothing matching apex predator parameters yet. Naira activated her quantum phase camouflage, her form shimming before blending perfectly with the snowy background. The rest of Alpha Squad followed suit, 5 of the galaxy's deadliest hunters vanishing into the landscape like ghosts. "Command, this is Lead Hunter Krell," she reported. "Alpha Squad is groundside and operational, beginning preliminary ecosystem assessment." Commander Thellar's voice crackled through the neural link. "Acknowledged, Lead Hunter. Be advised, we're detecting unusual electromagnetic fluctuations across all deployment zones. Maintain heightened awareness." The squad moved through the taiga with practiced precision, their movements silent despite the crunch of snow beneath their feet. Naira's enhanced senses picked up various animal calls, each automatically categorized and analyzed by her suit's biological database. "In contact, 2 kilometers east," reported Cax Mayar, their tracking specialist. "Large ursine creature, matching preliminary scans for species designated Ursa's Arctos primitive cardiovascular system. No apparent energy weapons or defensive technology." Naira allowed herself a small smile. "Hardly seems sporting, doesn't it? These creatures haven't even developed basic neural enhancements." As if in response to her words, a bone-chilling roar echoed through the forest. The sound carried a primal quality that made her secondary heart skip a beat, though she'd never admit it to her squad. "All teams, check in," she commanded, noting a sudden silence falling over the wilderness. Beta Squad reporting increased activity in the desert region. Several large felids detected. Gamma Squad tracking multiple serpentine creatures. Unusual heat signatures. Delta Squad hold position where something's moving through the underbrush. Static crackled through the neural link, and Naira felt an unfamiliar sensation creeping up her spine. In all her years of hunting across the galaxy, she'd learned to trust her instincts. Right now, those instincts were screaming that something wasn't right. "Maintain formation," she ordered, raising her plasma rifle. "These might be primitive creatures, but remember the first rule of the hunt. Never underestimate your prey," her squad responded in unison, their weapons humming to life. The forest had grown unnaturally quiet now, save for the soft whisper of wind through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled a sound that would soon become all too familiar to the galaxy's greatest hunters. The emergency beacon cut through the humid air of the Amazon rainforest, its pulsing red light barely visible through the thick canopy. Squad leader Tarn Voss crouched beside it, his claws scraping against the device's partially crushed casing. Around him, the dense vegetation seemed to press in, filled with sounds his training had never prepared him for. "Command, this is Gamma Squad leader," he reported, trying to keep the tension from his voice. "We've located Hunter Wren's beacon, but there's no sign of her or her equipment. The neural link is dead." He paused, examining the ground. "There are marks here I cannot explain. The soil is disturbed in a pattern our databases cannot identify." Commander Thellar's voice came through with noticeable interference. "Any signs of weapon discharge? Energy signatures?" "Negative, Commander." Whatever happened here was silent. Voss stood, his massive frame dwarfed by the towering trees. Her quantum phase camouflage was active when the signal cut out. Nothing should have been able to detect her. A series of clicks echoed through the canopy above, drawing the attention of every member of Gamma Squad. Their weapons snapped up in perfect unison, tracking the sound. "Break formation," Voss ordered. "Defensive pattern Sigma. Keep your neural links active." The squad spread out, each hunter becoming invisible as their camouflage systems engaged. The rainforest's cacophony of sounds continued unabated, seeming to mock their advanced technology with its primitive brutality. "Command, requesting immediate data upload from all deployment zones," Voss transmitted. "Something about these Earth predators isn't matching our initial scans." The response came broken and distorted. Multiple teams reporting anomalies. Beta Squad lost contact. 2 hunters. Delta Squad interference increasing. Suddenly, the neural link erupted with a burst of static, followed by a scream that cut off as quickly as it began. Voss spun toward the sound's origin, his heart rate spiking. "Hunter Krell, report. Report immediately." Silence answered him. "All squads, this is Commander Thellar." The neural link crackled to life again. We're detecting widespread equipment failures across all zones. The planet's electromagnetic field is evolving, adapting. Our sensors are being compromised. Voss felt a drop of water hit his shoulder plate. Looking up, he froze. What he had assumed was rain wasn't water at all. A viscous liquid dripped from the branches above, glowing faintly in his enhanced vision. His suit's analysis confirmed his worst fears. It was Vrchak blood. "Command," he whispered, "we need immediate extraction. The creatures here, they're not just hunting us, they're learning." A rustle in the undergrowth caught his attention. One of his squad members, still cloaked, was backing away from something. The hunter's camouflage flickered, revealing glimpses of terror-widened eyes. "Don't move," the hunter pleaded to an unseen threat. "I am Vrchak. We are the galaxy's apex predators. You cannot." The rest was lost in a blur of motion and a spray of bioluminescent blood. Voss's enhanced reflexes captured every horrifying detail as something his sensors still couldn't properly identify struck from the shadows. Emergency protocol initiated, he broadcast on all frequencies. "The prey here. They can see through our camouflage. They're using our own hunting patterns against us. The planet itself seems to be." He stopped, hearing a sound that made his scales stand on end. "The planet is helping them hunt us." Commander Thellar's voice cut through the chaos. "All teams, fall back to extraction points. Priority 1 protocol enacted. This is not a hunt anymore. This is." The neural link dissolved into static as screams began echoing from every deployment zone. In the Sahara, Beta Squad reported shadows moving against the wind. From Siberia, Alpha Squad's lead hunter Krell transmitted footage of massive paw prints appearing in the snow around their position, prints that their sensors couldn't detect until they were already surrounded. In the midst of this growing nightmare, Voss noticed something that chilled him more than any alien predator he'd ever encountered. The forest around him had gone completely silent. In his experience, that meant only one thing. The apex predator was about to strike. Delta Squad Commander Lyra Vex crouched in the undergrowth of India's Sundarbans mangrove forest, her breathing carefully controlled as sweat dripped down her scaled neck. The humidity had already shorted out 2 of their primary sensor arrays, and the constant buzz of insects was playing havoc with their audio detection systems. Status report, she subvocalized through what remained of their neural link. The response came back fragmented, but clear enough to understand. 3 hunters missing in the last hour, reported Hunter Cax. Their beacons just went dark. No distress signals, no weapon discharge. They simply vanished. The mangrove roots around them creaked and shifted in the brackish water. Something large was moving through the swamp, but their supposedly infallible tracking systems couldn't get a lock on it. Or command, requesting immediate tactical analysis, Lyra transmitted to the orbiting fleet. "Our technology is failing systematically. The electromagnetic interference has evolved beyond our initial readings." Commander Thellar's response was barely audible through the static. Patterns emerging across all zones, predators exhibiting impossible behaviors, coordinated hunting strategies. A splash to her left made Lyra spin, raising her plasma rifle. Through the thick vegetation, she caught a glimpse of orange and black stripes. The massive shape moved with impossible grace, barely disturbing the water despite its size. "Contact," she whispered. "Species designation Bengal tiger. But the size, it's all wrong. Our scans showed them as simple quadrupedal predators. This is something else." The tiger turned its head, and Lyra felt her secondary heart stop. Its eyes, it was looking directly at her, despite her active camouflage. The beast's gaze held an intelligence that sent shivers down her spine. "Impossible," Hunter Cax breathed through the neural link. "Its sensory capabilities are exceeding our stealth technology. How can a primitive species—" His words cut off in a gurgle as a second tiger, one their sensors hadn't even detected, launched from the water behind him. The hunter's camouflage failed spectacularly, revealing his true form for a split second before massive jaws closed around his throat. Weapons free, Lyra screamed, opening fire with her plasma rifle. The superheated bolts of energy sizzled through the air, and missed completely as the tiger seemed to anticipate the shot, moving with preternatural speed. "Command," she broadcast frantically, "these creatures. They're not just hunting us. They're outsmarting us. The planet's electromagnetic field isn't interfering with our equipment. It's actively adapting to counter our technology." The remaining members of Delta Squad formed a defensive circle, their backs to each other. Through gaps in the mangrove trees, Lyra could see more shapes moving. Not just tigers now, but other predators. Crocodiles slid silently through the water, their approach masked by the swamp's natural electromagnetic signature. Above, something large moved through the canopy, a python, far bigger than their scans had indicated possible. All teams, be advised, Commander Thellar's voice cut through the chaos. The planet's biosphere appears to be operating as a single coordinated hunting ground. These creatures, they're not just individual predators. They're part of something larger. Lyra's suit sensors began failing one by one. First the motion trackers, then the thermal imaging. The neural links sputtered and died, leaving them in eerie silence broken only by the natural sounds of the swamp. Her plasma rifle's power core fluctuated wildly, the weapon's advanced targeting systems rendered useless by the environment. The most advanced hunting technology in the galaxy, she said bitterly, watching as a tiger circled their position with almost casual confidence. And were being hunted by beasts that haven't even mastered basic tool use. That's when she saw the pattern in their movement. The tigers weren't just attacking randomly. They were herding Delta Squad, pushing them toward the deeper water where the crocodiles waited. Above, the python had positioned itself perfectly for an ambush. They're working together, she realized with dawning horror. Not just as a pack, but across species. This isn't possible. Our xenobiologists assured us. Her words were cut short as her suit's power core finally gave out, the quantum phase camouflage flickering and dying. Around her, the remaining hunters appeared as their own systems failed, their advanced technology rendered worthless by Earth's natural defenses. The tigers stopped circling. In the sudden stillness, Lyra could have sworn she saw something like satisfaction in their eyes. These weren't the simple predators their scans had shown. These were the product of millions of years of evolution on a death world, where every day was a battle for survival. And now, they had found new prey. Commander Raxon Thellar watched in mounting horror as emergency signals flared across the holographic display of Earth. Each red dot represented a hunter in distress, and the screen was lighting up like a stellar nursery. "Get me contact with any squad leader," he demanded, his claws digging into the command chair's armrests. Anyone. The bridge of the apex hunter had descended into chaos. Communications officers frantically worked their consoles, trying to pierce through the growing electromagnetic interference that seemed to be rising from Earth's surface like a living thing. North American continent. Multiple casualties reported, announced Lieutenant Vex, her voice cracking. Grizzly bears, they're not following any known hunting patterns. The suit's prediction algorithms are useless against them. The main screen flickered to life, showing fragmented footage from a hunter's visual feed. A massive brown bear stood on its hind legs, easily dwarfing the Vrchak warrior before it. The hunter's plasma rifle discharged, the shot going wide as the bear moved with impossible speed for its size. The feed cut out as massive claws swept through the air. African deployment zone reporting total communications blackout, another officer called out. Last transmission mentioned something about lions hunting in unprecedented numbers. They're coordinating across prides. Thellar slammed his fist on the console. These are primitive beasts. They shouldn't be capable of this level of tactical coordination. A new alert blared through the bridge. On screen, footage from Australia showed a group of hunters backing away from what appeared to be a normal riverbank. Suddenly, the water erupted as multiple saltwater crocodiles launched themselves in perfect synchronization. The hunters' supposedly impenetrable armor crumpled like paper under those ancient jaws. "Commander." Science Officer Zen's voice shook as she spoke. "I'm detecting a pattern in the electromagnetic disruptions. It's not random interference. The planet's magnetic field is actively adapting to our presence. It's like the entire biosphere is working as one organism to protect itself." The ship shuddered as another emergency broadcast cut through the chaos. Lead Hunter Nyra Krell's voice, normally so confident, now carried an edge of panic. "This is Alpha Squad, what remains of it. The bears, they're not just attacking, they're pushing us into killing grounds, working with wolf packs. Every time we adapt our tactics, they counter them. It's like they're reading our playbook and improving on it." Static consumed her transmission as more emergency beacons activated across the globe. In the Sahara, Beta Squad reported being stalked by lions that seemed to materialize from the very air, their advanced sensors blinded by the swirling sand. The Amazon team's last transmission mentioned jaguars moving through the trees like liquid shadow, coordinating with anacondas to create three-dimensional killing zones. Sir Lieutenant Vex called out, her scales pale with fear. We've lost contact with the other ships in the fleet. The interference is spreading to orbit. Thellar watched as his mighty hunting fleet, the pride of the Vrchak Empire, began losing power. Ships that had brought death to 1,000 worlds now drifted helplessly in Earth's orbit, their systems overcome by the planet's natural defenses. Impossible, he whispered, watching another dozen emergency beacons go dark. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. We've hunted creatures that could tear apart stars. How can simple beasts? His words were cut short as a new transmission broke through, this one from the Indian subcontinent. The video showed a tiger, its massive form moving with lethal grace, leading a group of hunters into an ambush. Other predators waited in the shadows, leopards in the trees, dholes in the underbrush, each species playing its part in a symphony of death that had been perfected over millions of years. All teams, emergency recall, Thellar commanded, his voice hoarse. Abort the hunt. I repeat, abort. The ship's lights flickered and died, leaving only the emergency systems running. On the main screen, the last functional camera feed showed a polar bear in Siberia, its white form barely visible in the snow, moving with purpose toward a group of stranded hunters. The beast's eyes seemed to look directly through the camera, carrying a clear message: this was its world, and they were no longer the hunters here. The great hunt, pride of the Vrchak Empire, had become a massacre, but not the one they had planned. Commander Raxon Thellar strapped on his personal combat armor, the ancient ceremonial markings glowing faintly in the emergency lighting of his ready room. If his hunters were dying on the surface, he would not hide in orbit like a coward. Prepare my personal dropship, he commanded, checking the power core of his most powerful weapon, a plasma cannon that could vaporize small buildings. I will not let the greatest hunting fleet in the galaxy fall to mere beasts. Lieutenant Vex stood at attention nearby, her own armor showing signs of hasty repair. Sir, the surface readings are getting worse. The electromagnetic disruption has evolved beyond anything in our records. Then we will do what our ancestors did, Thellar growled, drawing his ceremonial blade. We will hunt with steel and cunning. The dropship pierced the atmosphere like a meteor, its hull screaming in protest. Through the viewport, Thellar watched the scattered emergency beacons of his surviving hunters spread across Earth's surface like dying stars. Commander, the ship's AI warned, unusual movement detected at landing zone. Multiple large life forms converging on the position. Thellar bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. Good. Let them come. The ship touched down in what their databases identified as the Serengeti Plains. As the door opened, the full sensory assault of Earth hit him: the heat, the smells, the sounds of countless creatures all around. His enhanced senses picked up movement in every direction. Status report, he demanded through the failing neural link. The responses came broken and desperate. Australia team crocodiles working with dingoes, never seen coordination like this. Amazon squad, the jaguars are herding us towards something, some kind of trap. Siberian team, the bears, they're not just strong, they're smart, too smart. A roar shattered the air, and Thellar spun to see a male lion approaching, its massive mane catching the African sun. Behind it, an entire pride emerged from the grass, moving with tactical precision that should have been impossible for non-sentient creatures. Come then, Thellar challenged, raising his plasma cannon. The weapon hummed to life, then suddenly died as another electromagnetic pulse rolled across the plain. Around him, his remaining technology flickered and failed. The lions didn't charge. Instead, they began a methodical encirclement, coordinating without a sound. More predators appeared: hyenas, leopards, even a pair of cheetahs, all moving in perfect harmony. Impossible, Thellar whispered, drawing his blade as his armor's power core failed. This level of coordination, unless... A new sound cut through the air, a sharp crack that his database identified as artificial. A projectile whizzed past his head, embedding itself in the ground behind him. Thellar turned toward its source and felt his heart stop. Standing at the edge of the plain were figures he had dismissed in their initial scans. Humans. Primitive bipeds with no natural weapons, no enhanced strength, no genetic modifications. But their eyes held the same intelligent, predatory gleam he had seen in the lions. Command, he transmitted, knowing the neural link was probably dead. The planet's predators, they're not acting alone. The dominant species here, they're not just hunters, they're something else entirely. Another crack split the air, and Thellar felt searing pain as a primitive but perfectly aimed projectile pierced his armor. The humans were working with the predators, coordinating the attack with gestures and calls that seemed almost like a language. "You don't understand," one of the humans called out in what his translator identified as English. "Earth's animals aren't just our prey or our pets. They're our partners. We evolved together, hunted together, survived together. Every predator you see here, we learned from them, and they learned from us." The lions began closing the circle, moving in perfect synchronization with the humans' advance. Thellar watched in dawning horror as he realized the truth. These humans hadn't conquered their world's predators through superior technology or strength. They had done something far more dangerous. They had formed alliances with them. All ships he broadcast on emergency frequencies as the hunters and their prey closed in. Abort mission. Classification update on planet Earth. This is not a hunting ground. This is a death world. The apex predators here are not the beasts. They're not even the humans. It's the combination of both. The last thing Commander Thellar saw before the coordinated attack began was a human sharing a knowing look with the lead lion, two apex predators working as one. In that moment, he finally understood why his mighty empire had failed here. They had come to hunt Earth's predators, never realizing they were attacking an alliance that had been perfected since before his species had learned to make fire. Lieutenant Cora Vex stumbled through the apex hunters' corridors, clutching her wounded side as emergency sirens blared throughout the ship. The few surviving hunters who had made it back to orbit were in no better shape, their once pristine armor scratched, torn and stained with their own luminescent blood. Engineering reports critical systems failing. An officer called out as Vex entered the bridge. "The electromagnetic interference is spreading through the whole fleet. We're losing power to all decks." Through the main viewport, Earth hung below them like a deceptively beautiful jewel. The planet's magnetic field had evolved far beyond their ability to counter it, reaching up into space to disable their mighty ships as easily as it had neutralized their hunting equipment on the surface. Status report on all teams. Vex commanded, taking control in the absence of Commander Thellar. The responses came in fragments, each more desperate than the last. Siberian team, total losses, except for 2 hunters. Emergency extraction completed. Amazon Squad 3 survivors heavily wounded being pursued to extraction point. African deployment. Commander Thellar's signal gone dark. Vex closed her eyes, remembering the commander's final transmission about the humans and their incredible partnership with Earth's predators. None of their xenobiologists could have predicted this, a species that had turned an entire planet's ecosystem into a coordinated defense network. "Mom," called out Science Officer Zen, her voice shaking. "Long-range communications are still functional. Should I send the warning?" Vex nodded grimly. "Transmit on all emergency frequencies. The Vrchak Empire needs to know what happened here." The message was brief but clear. Emergency classification update. Planet Earth. Status. Extreme hazard. Native species have achieved unprecedented cooperation between sentient tool users and natural predators. Technology neutralization capabilities unlike anything encountered in known space. Warning: do not approach. This is not a hunting ground. Repeat. Earth is not a hunting ground. A violent shudder ran through the ship as another system's cascade failure began. On the tactical display, Vex watched as the last surviving hunter on the Australian continent transmitted a final, terrifying message. "They're everywhere, the humans. They don't just work with the predators, they think like them. They've learned from every hunter on their world, and now they're hunting us." The transmission cut off in static. Through the ship's remaining sensors, Vex could detect small craft launching from Earth's surface. The humans were coming to finish what their animal partners had started. "All ships, emergency jump protocols," she ordered, watching as warning lights cascaded across her console. "Get us out of this system before." Her words were cut short as a massive electromagnetic pulse rolled up from the planet's surface, more powerful than any they had encountered. Ship after ship lost power, their mighty engines silenced by the natural defenses of a world they had grievously underestimated. In her final moments on the bridge, as Earth's gravity began pulling their dead ships back toward the surface, Vex understood the true magnitude of their failure. The Vrchak had come as self-proclaimed apex predators, armed with technology that had subdued 1,000 worlds. But Earth had spent millions of years crafting something far more dangerous than mere weapons. It had created partnerships, alliances between species that should have been enemies. The humans hadn't conquered their world's predators. They had joined them, learned from them, and in doing so, had become something unprecedented in the galaxy. As the ship's emergency pods launched into space, carrying the pitiful handful of survivors, Vex recorded one final addition to their warning message. To any who receive this. The humans called their world Earth. We called it a hunting ground. We were wrong. This is not a place for hunters. This is a world where prey and predator have transcended their roles to create something new. The humans are not simple tool users. They are the culmination of their planet's evolution. The bridge between rational thought and primal instinct. They are what happens when intelligence meets savagery and finds harmony. Stay away from Earth. It belongs to them and their allies, and they know how to defend it. The message transmitted just as the last emergency pod cleared the planet's atmosphere, leaving behind a graveyard of ships and a legend that would terrify hunters across the galaxy for generations to come.